look after yourself. We call it sharpening the saw, physically, mentally, emotionally, that sort of thing. Because when you are well, you have the capacity to perform and do better
100%.
everything around you.
What's going to happen if I decide to have kids to my fitness journey? For the most part, people say, well, it's over. But it's not. That's the part it was a surprise for me as well. Because I believed that I was fit because I could run for 90 minutes in a soccer field like a maniac. To see people of all walks of life and just pushing to be a better versions of themselves. And that's the reason why I wanted to have you here, because I think that's the message that I want to put out there in the world. If you're not physically well, your mind is not going to work correctly.
It all comes back to that why. We want people to understand their why, what motivates them, not being told that you have to train.
Welcome to the Melding Muse podcast. Melding art and design, entrepreneurship, music, fashion, film, sports, gaming, and whatever's in between. We exist to showcase extraordinary people to inspire the next generation of creatives and leaders. Today I'll be talking to Prakash, husband, golfer, fitness coach, and owner of 2 BFT studios here in Auckland. We talked about the importance of fitness and finding your why. We opened up about each other's struggles to lose weight and share some insights about BFT's results-oriented approach. If you want to improve or start working on your fitness, this episode might be helpful to you. Prakash, welcome to the Melding Muse podcast. How are you doing, bro?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm not as nervous as I was 10 minutes ago. Now that we have everything in place.
We already started talking. We got your drinks flowing, like everything is in place. And I'm happy that you're here. Yeah. Cheers, by the way.
Cheers.
I got you some Colombian coffee. Like I mentioned before, every Colombian household has this cup. I only put it out when there's a special guest. You are a special guest.
Thank you, Esteban.
And I just brew you some fresh coffee. I hope you like that as well.
It's amazing. I'm actually going to have a sip right now.
Amazing. Yeah, I'm just having I was initially thinking, do I want to drink alcohol in a podcast when we're talking about fitness? But this gets me going, and then I would just switch to water after this.
That's right. It gets the engine warm.
Yeah.
Good. So, no, thanks for having me on. I'm always happy to get in front of a mic and a camera, obviously, and chat through a few things and experiences I've been through.
Amazing. Okay, so before we started, actually, we just got talking, and you started telling me a story that I go, wait, just hold it up for a second, and we'll tell that story. But before we get into that story, and before we get into you, because people are going to jump into the video and go, what is this video about? What is this guy here for? Right? You are from BFT.
BFT.
I go to BFT, and I haven't been going for a long time, but that has already made a tremendous impact on my life, on my family's life, in fact. And that's the reason why I invited you here today, because I feel that the service and the business that you bring to the market, to New Zealand, is incredibly beneficial to the community. And it has benefited me, and I'm very passionate about fitness because I, like yourself, I've been through a fitness journey. I used to be quite overweight, and now it's non-negotiable for me. I have to exercise, have to make it part of my life. So again, that's why you're here. So before we get into everything, just give us a the quickest introduction of what BFT is.
Okay. Well, firstly, I'm glad that we were able to, through BFT, of course, to make a difference. Really pleasing to hear that, and great to see your level of consistency, considering that you've been with us for only a couple of months now.
Yeah.
Maybe a little more than that.
A little bit more than that, but I think I'm about to hit like 80 sessions, I think.
It's just amazing.
Yeah.
So great to hear that. And I'm sure we'll get an opportunity to chat through that as well. So let me give you a bit of an insight into BFT. Okay. So why BFT? Look, I went through my own journey, and I'll touch on, I'm just getting to why BFT. And I did different types of training, and I spent a lot of time in the gym. And for me, it was a tick the box exercise. As long as I had been to the gym, I thought, okay, I'm doing something. As time went on and I learned, I thought, hey, there's more to training. Obviously, with the help of other people and, subject matter experts and that sort of thing, I got to learn a little more and how training is connected to other parts and what's essential in training. So all that being said, when I've tried different programs and that personally myself when I'm training, And then when an opportunity arose with BFT, I looked at the program and I thought, this is amazing. We talk positive outcomes, different energy systems, the variety in the programming. There's a science behind it all. And it's just incredible for us to be able to see transformations in the results that people achieve. It's equally inspiring for us as well.
The interesting thing that you mentioned there as well, and I read this on the website, and it's the last bit that actually got me very excited because I work in a data science company. We look at data and it says backed by science. And when you say backed by science, actually, when you join BFT, like they walk you through this program where you can actually measure it. Yeah, measure your progress.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about, well, I don't know if you want to get to that yet, but you talked about why. And actually I fucking love the fact that you said why, you start with why, because that's one way that I usually run exercises with businesses. Like the first thing you want to know is why they exist.
Yeah.
Right. And then you talk about how and then what. So you talked about why BFT exists. What's the purpose? Talk us about a little bit about, so for people again listening to this who have no idea what BFT is, talk us a little bit more about how and what exactly that is.
The reason I said why is because like with most things that we do, for instance, when we get into training, we'll ask a person, or generally we'll say, you've got to figure out or find out why you're doing this. When we understand the why, we're more likely to be committed to it.
Right.
When we understand the why, right? And look, it could be one of many reasons. The how, I'm going to touch on the how. Is that what we're on to next, the how? An understanding of the program. Now, it's important that over time, we get our members to understand the program and also components of the program, versus being in a situation of authority and saying, you need to follow the program without explaining the why behind it.
Right.
But understandably, it needs to be pushed out at appropriate times where it's not going to be too overwhelming for people. Because you get a variety of people that come through our doors. People who are starting out to people who are at the other end of the spectrum, at athlete status or almost there, who have got a number of years of experience under their belts. So what we try to do is recognize when is the most appropriate time to have these discussions with people, but it's important as well for us to be relaying a consistent message. So the how is it's about understanding the program, and we talk about program prescription, adhering to it, and we've seen that adhering to the program prescription, because it is such a good program, allows for sufficient recovery, which is important. It allows every, if not most, muscle fibers to be trained. There's different energy systems that are targeted as well. And when we say for anybody and everybody, we don't, what we want to provide is reassurance that it's not only for people who have experience in fitness or at a certain level of fitness.
Right.
Because our technology in the form of our, what we call BFT Cubed, the heart rate monitors, everybody is measured against their own settings. And everybody trains at the intensity according to their heart rate settings.
Right. Actually, let me do a break there because I wanted to bring the heart rate monitor so we can show it.
Okay.
I think that part is incredible. Let me 1 second.
Okay, cool.
So you were talking about the heart rate monitor, and I stopped you because I wanted to bring it so that I can show it to the cameras here, right here.
Okay.
This thing right here, I think, is a game changer in the way that, because let me tell you how I got introduced to BFT, by the way, because I haven't told you that. So essentially, a friend of mine from work, they were doing like a a fitness challenge at work.
Right.
And I was going to do, basically what I do is my fitness journey before BFT, looks something like I'll play football almost every day of the week.
Right.
And then I will just do some sessions where I would just, you see the bag outside, the kickboxing bag. So I would just go run and then hit the bag. That's it. That was my fitness. And they were doing this and I was like, I might just step it up to try to do a challenge, challenge myself and in the fitness challenge that they worked it. And then this guy was like, oh, I joined this BFT thing. Have you seen what that is? I was like, no, what is it? And he basically explained it to me. He's like, you go in there, it's like different sessions. But the part that sold it to me is that he said, the gamification is brilliant. You wear a heart rate monitor, which is this thing right here. You see your heart rate projected onto a screen, and it tells you what the heart rate is and what's your target. And if you need to push hard, and at the end, they give you medals and all of this thing. I was like, oh, wow, that sounds like fun. And that sounds like something that would definitely make me, because I'm very competitive, I want to get a gold medal every time.
Absolutely.
And this thing right here, the whole, like you say, the whole program, but this, I think, makes a tremendous difference. And in terms of the product design of this as well, it simply works.
It does.
You're working for people who haven't been to a BFT gym. You put this thing in your chest, and it automatically shows up on the screen. There is no glitches. There's no weird setups. It's flawless. Yeah, the experience is absolutely flawless. So kudos to the people who designed this and the whole experience for that. So I'll let you continue to go on this.
Thanks, Esteban. Look, I like your choice of words, game changing, because that's what we refer to it as. It's a game changer. This is live heart rate tracking. Hence why we say, or hence why we incorporate, BFTs for anyone and everyone. Now, let's say, I'm going to give you an example. Let's say you and I are, we're doing a session. We are working in the same pod, right?
Right.
Generally speaking, what tends to happen is I walk into a gym. I may see people who are relatively conditioned. I'll see you and I might be paired up with you. I might get a little intimidated.
Yeah.
I'm going to be working out with this guy who looks very conditioned.
Yeah.
And what could happen, what could easily happen is, let's say we have a 30 or 40 second working set of exercises, and that involves, let's say, box jumps. And I'll see you going at a speed. Again, sometimes human nature, I may tend to want to keep up with you. Now, for you, you're working at the prescribed intensity because according to your heart rate, which is displaying on the screen, you've hit the prescribed intensity. And let's say, for instance, it might be a 40-second set, not maximum intensity. And the aim was to get you between 80 to 89% of your max heart rate setting.
Correct.
Now, if I'm keeping up with you, that might be, because I'm simply trying to keep up with you, for me, that might mean going even beyond and pushing my limit.
Right.
So if I were then put on a heart rate monitor, and simply because I'm keeping up with you, I might be sitting at maybe anything mid-90s in terms of my max heart rate setting. And then what happens is I'm sort of moving away from the program prescription. So whilst we say it's not mandatory, it is an essential piece of equipment when training at BFT to be able to maximize and get the most out of the BFT sessions. And this is what it is. It is a game changer. It's an amazing piece of technology. You got live heart rate monitoring right there in front of you, and different outputs, targeting different energy systems. For instance, you've trained there, Esteban, you've been there for a few weeks now.
Yeah.
And you understand, or hopefully you have a little more of an understanding of high intensity. We know high intensity, we can't go for extended durations of high intensity. And high intensity is just max effort, but it's short sharp bursts where we tap into anaerobic energy system. And how is that seen on screen? Or how do we know we're working at the correct intensity? Simply by looking up at the screen.
Right.
And coaches will coach and should be coaching to prescribed intensity and also looking at the screen as well. And then either, let's pick up the intensity. Let's pick up the load. Let's look to reduce the load. Let's look to drop the intensity because these are longer duration efforts, and we're spiking out of the zone we're meant to be in. And we find that, the closer you stick or you adhere to the program prescription, the better we are, or the more effective the program is going to be for us in terms of achieving the desired outputs.
Right.
Yeah, so that's why it's such a great piece of equipment to have.
And it's a lot of fun, by the way. Like, it's just like all the things that you just mentioned, and also the fact that this thing connects also to an app where, again, you can see literally a spike line of all your activity throughout the session. You see your medals. You can keep track. If you're a maniac like me, you see your benchmark all the time.
Yes.
And you can actually continue to evolve that. So I think this is tremendous. Again, and one thing that we haven't sort of mentioned yet, but the sessions are guided by trainers.
Correct.
Which, again, another thing that to me was incredibly important, incredibly different. Because let me walk you through my experience. The first week, actually first day, I walk into the gym. And again, like I mentioned to you before, the main reason why I did it was because of the challenge, but also because I was trying to get my wife to exercise, to find something that she liked, right? Because for the longest time, she just never sort of became interested. She would join a yoga program, and then 2 weeks later, she would drop it, sign up for a gym, goes for a week, never comes back.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the journey of most people. It's kind of hard to fit it into a journey, to fit it into your everyday that becomes a habit and becomes one thing that you're actually looking forward to, which is the one thing that changed my wife's life, is the fact that now with this program, she doesn't want to miss out on a class. She literally is looking forward to that program. So anyway, that's sort of one of the reasons. But we walk in the first day, and there's this guy, Tane, by the way, shout out Tane. He is full of energy, already knows our name, basically welcomes us by our first name, and literally, Hesty, how you going, brother? Blah, blah. I was like, oh, wow, this guy already knows my name.
He's been stalking me.
He's like, wow. And then he's just like, the whole time you're there working out for 50 minutes, he's there taking care of you, telling you what to do, push you. He knows that you can push it harder. He pushes you. He tells you to do the movement correctly. I mean, I remember the first 2 days, my wife and I were just like, wow, this is crazy. This is really, really cool.
Yeah.
And ever since, became this thing that we were looking forward to. Like, it was just every day. Never expected in my entire life that I would just be pumped to go to this. I dropped playing football because I was doing it too much. And I decided, you know what? This is going to get me fitter for football. So I don't need to play football as many times. So I'll go train because, like you mentioned, the program is designed so that you have a high intensity training, then you go upper body, and then you go. It's like a really nice resting periods.
Recovery.
So recovery is important, all of that kind of stuff. And it really made a difference. 1 week, I think not 1 week, but like a couple of weeks doing BFT, going back to the pitch, huge difference. Yeah. Because I was very fast playing football, but I never exercised with weights.
Yeah.
That was a big missing piece. I didn't know how important that was. And I learned that at BFT, how, it's good for your posture. It just gives you so much more tools. And I just never liked that. But that was sort of my first week, my first experience there. And that whole thing was incredible. Again, another thing. You wear this thing, blah, blah, blah. Everybody's on the screen. You can see other people's heart rate as well. And everybody in the gym was also like it was very community driven. Yeah. That's the sort of vibe that you feel with the trainers, with the people that are there. Everybody's very welcoming. So again, I've never been to any, because people might say, oh, you just promoting BFT. So I never been to any other gyms, any other types of programs like this, but I'm just telling you why I feel this is incredible. And that's why I wanted to have here, because I really want to get people to try this. If you are on a fitness journey or want to start one, I do feel that if you do struggle like my wife did, if you struggle with putting this, fitness into your life, making it a habit, I think this literally cuts it right through the middle and puts it right into your life right away.
Steps are there for us to be followed. Esteban, thank you. Look, great to hear this feedback. Really pleasing. Obviously one of the things we recognize is that when we're walking into any new space or any new environment,
right,
it can be intimidating for people. One of the things we said is, yes, community driven, but our doors are open to anybody and everybody, regardless of age, gender, ethnicity, religious beliefs.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, our role is to make people feel comfortable in a space, where they're going to spend an amount of time because they've sort of trusted us to lead them, in that health and fitness space. We know health and fitness is lifestyle. So what we also want to do is we want to provide an environment that is not only hospitable and welcoming,
Yeah.
but also motivating to a certain extent. And as you say, yes, we have the game-changing technology. It's got its gamification as well in the form of rewards, the flip tile at the end and the rewards for following the program prescription, and then the little podium, the fact that we can refer to our workouts as well. We can connect this outside studio, which is fantastic. We can have a look at friends on the app as well.
Yeah, you can add people. It's pretty cool. I mean, the people who designed the product, like they really thought it through the whole way.
It's genius.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's genius. So it's a fantastic piece of technology, and everything behind it obviously has a reason. But yeah, I'm really pleased to hear this feedback. That you were made to feel at home, and that's our aim. So it's providing service. That's what we're there to do. We're there to take people or make those first steps that can be very challenging in health and fitness a little less challenging. Get people into the mindset of understanding the essentials when it comes to training. And for me, I can get very passionate about this and understand it because I went through the phases myself.
Right. Walk us through that because, tell me your story. Now that we sort of covered, up until this point, we've covered why BFT, what it does, and we can get into a little bit more of a in depth about the programs and all the different classes you have, or we can get into detail about that. But now is probably the time to talk about you because your story is also pretty interesting. So tell us about that journey.
Thanks so much. Look, hey, and the reason for me to find that passion or how I found my passion in training is because I've learned a lot over the years. I trained, one of my previous jobs was with the New Zealand Police in Auckland.
Right.
And obviously training was not, I wouldn't say it was a requirement, but it kind of goes hand in hand with the job, right?
Right.
Now, for me, training those days was, because I trained and I thought I trained relatively consistently, I felt I had a right to still enjoy life. Now, I'm not saying if you train, you can't enjoy life, but having an understanding is important.
Like a relationship almost.
Yeah, having that understanding. So training was a tick-the-box exercise for me. At times, and a lot of the times, it was difficult for me to get to the gym simply because of my own mindset. It was like, I've got to go to the gym.
Right.
I'd get to the gym at a certain time, and more often than not, I'd be looking up at the clocks, at my watch. As soon as I knew I was there for 50, 55 minutes to an hour,
you bounce.
I was gone.
Yeah.
I had no structure in my training. I'd think, okay, I've done a bit of upper body work yesterday, so maybe today I'll do some core. Tomorrow I might do a bit of lower body work, and then I'll come back again after that. I had no idea about recovery.
Yeah.
And there were many other things I had no idea about. So within the gymnasium itself and also outside and how to support your training. I trained and I saw people doing things in the gym and I thought, wow, that looks cool. I'm going to try it. And I mean, I may have done something for that particular body part the day before, which might have required rest. And suddenly, because I thought it looked cool, I'm trying it.
Yeah.
I didn't really achieve results. And I thought to myself, after all these years of training, I look the same, and then I used to see fit people, walking around, fitness magazines, social media was growing, people into fitness and all sorts of social media. And I thought, wow, how do these people achieve these results? I'm putting in an hour a day. I'm training at least 4 to 5 days a week.
Yeah.
What am I doing wrong? So I think maybe I'm not pushing heavy enough.
Right.
To build muscles, you got to push heavy. That's all. I didn't know anything else that was connected to, muscle stimulus, how to build muscle in terms of, nutrition to support your growth. And what happened is, or what happens in those instances is you invest a lot of time into yourself, the time that you spend in the gym, and you're not achieving results. It can be very demotivating. And hence why I felt that way a lot of the times when it was time to go to the gym. It would be with my head down. I never looked forward to it most of the time, unless I had a friend join me in the gym, or unless, I had seen something that looked quite interesting and I wanted to try that particular movement out. But a lot of the times it was a struggle to get to the gym. Eventually I stopped training, and in the space of probably 10 to 12 months, I put on a lot of weight because I continued with my eating habits.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I was an overeater, but it got to a stage where my GP said to me, my general practitioner said to me as my doctor, I can't believe you in this state.
Really? Is that what the doctor told you?
So from where I was, which wasn't at the fit end of the spectrum, but I suppose okay, because I did some type of exercise, but again, with no goal in mind.
Yeah, I see.
No intention apart from having this belief that I'm training. So I'm okay. But when I stopped training, after a period of time, went to see my GP, regular checkup. And he said, it's very hard to believe that you're now in this state. I was struggling with reflux. I was overweight.
Oh, wow.
And then, ironically, my wife showed me a picture of myself on someone's social media. And I took a screenshot of that and I zoomed in. And I couldn't believe it as well. I said, no, this is... I can't believe this here. We see ourselves every day.
Yeah.
Sometimes
you don't realize,
we may not notice that subtle change over a small period of time.
Over a long period of time, it builds up. Yeah.
But when someone else sees you, or when you see it in a different context altogether, and I said, I've got to do something. So I went back to the gym and I tried to do a simple movement, a back squat with a barbell and no weight on it, and I couldn't even do that. And I said, wow, I've really gone backwards.
Oh, no.
So I started learning a little more about exercise, and look, with the help of some, trainers and reading into certain things, I started understanding a little more about training.
Right.
And then I started understanding about goal setting, nutrition, how it plays a part. Tried different programs, started to make some progress, continued to train, and then I started learning about this thing called body composition.
Yeah.
And having these goals, which it was amazing because, well, not amazing, but quite scary to think that I trained for a number of years and I had no idea about this.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, this has everything to do with body composition. That makes goal setting a little easier. And I started looking at all that and the options, and I set myself some goals. And now I became a little more motivated.
Right.
Because I had these goals.
Because you were hitting those goals.
Yeah. So it was partially the goals I had set myself, how to get to them. I had a bit of nutritional knowledge as well. And I started seeing a bit of progress, and also the fact that I had no option but to get back into training. I had developed a condition called reflux, and my GP said to me, you'll be on this medication for the rest of your life. Because when I put my head down on my pillow, it was very difficult to get to sleep. I'd have this indigestion. That's reflux.
Yeah.
And he said, you'll probably be on this for the rest of your life. And I thought, wow, okay. It's just got me by surprise. You no longer think you're invincible. Not that I ever thought I was invincible, but you just get a little concerned.
Yeah.
And it's amazing when I started understanding goals, when I start understanding consistency and nutrition and putting it all together, I started getting fitter and feeling fitter as well.
Right.
I was able to track progress, which is so important, so motivating. I started understanding health and fitness is a lifestyle choice. It's still very easy to have a balanced life, and look, there might be a time where you feel you're training for a particular event. You might become a little more disciplined. And there's times where you're training to maintain a certain level of fitness. So your level of discipline is not quite where it would be if you're training for a particular event.
Right.
Once I started understanding that you can have a balance, you're not sort of very rigid within a box, like, oh, it's got to be a 10 out of 10 discipline, and it's all about having a particular meal every day. But and then I got into more detail, started understanding nutrition in more depth. What are calories? Why are they measured? Macronutrients, things like that. And I became very addictive.
Right. At this time, you're still in the police.
I had left the police.
Oh, you left the police at that point. Right. Okay.
I left the police, got into business, and, started. I dedicated probably an hour of my day consistently to myself in the form of training, and then I started reading into it, the holistic, way. You look after yourself, take care of your mind, body, and spirit, because there's so many more benefits to exercise.
100%.
Physically, good. Mentally, good. Emotionally, good. Look, people have their whys for training, and person A's why may be different to the next person. But for me, it was now about goal setting and taking it, let's see what level we can get to, in terms of fitness. And then layered by all this knowledge, around the word health and fitness was, what is training? Training consistency, recovery, nutrition, and further breaking it down. It became more intriguing for me.
Right.
And the more I looked into it, the more able, I was to apply it. And I started seeing these results, and it became very addictive. Then I started learning the mindset for training as well. In the meantime, I thought I was learning the mindset, but I had already achieved that mindset. So it happened by default while I went through this year. But it's great to have that. And again, it comes down to that. When we started off this conversation, the why behind it. For me, the why was, I guess, one of the whys was I went to see my GP, and I was in a situation where it was a bit of a surprise, an unpleasant surprise. That was my why. I need to get back, to a level of fitness. And now my why is slightly different. It's like, okay, you can still live a balanced life, just like people talk about a work-life balance. But at the same time, you have your goals and you work towards it. And that's very motivating, And how does it all connect to BFT? Because I'm a big believer in the program,
Right.
BFT hits the components, so it's got its element of strength. There's a big focus on strength training, which personally my belief is any training program should have a component of strength in it.
That's the part it was a surprise for me as well. Because I believed that I was fit because I could run for 90 minutes in a soccer field like a maniac. And then when I discovered all the benefits of doing strength training, I was like, oh wow, like you said, it's like a mind-blowing aspect that I never believed. I was like, look, I don't want to look ripped, like I don't really want to look giant and whatever, but that's not what it is. It's a bunch of other benefits to it.
Definitely. So as I was saying, my personal belief is any training program should have a component of strength in it, because it's so important, and so are many other components of training. So cardiovascular component as well.
Right,
BFT is big on
building capacity and stuff, right?
Capacity, endurance as well. There's the metabolic conditioning. There's the recovery as well, which by now you will be experiencing. So for me, it was a nice all-round program. It wasn't heavily weighted on one particular thing. So building endurance, strength, getting conditioned as well. The thought process behind it. So we've got a great team of people at our headquarters, putting the program together. There's so much that goes into it in terms of, the process behind it, and it's progression based as well.
Progression, let's talk about the progressions later. But let's go back to your journey. So you basically discover all of these things. You were becoming fascinated by it, and at what point did you train at BFT or something, or what happened?
No, I came across BFT on. I had trialed out certain other things, out of curiosity. Let's
Yeah.
check this out. Let's try this out.
What other programs did you try? Did you just had your own, or did you try any other programs?
No, I tried. I joined a studio on the North Shore where I live as well.
Okay.
There was some good stuff in there. I continued to do certain things and change up some of my workouts as well.
Right.
I don't really know if that had an actual benefit because I at that stage, I didn't know too much about recovery.
Right.
One day I could be doing a lower body workout, and then the next day I could be doing certain things that involve a bit of, or actually a lot more than I thought. Leg power and that sort of stuff. So did I allow enough recovery? And I found when I trained myself, when I was training and learning certain things, as frustrating as it was, I'd be, I'd have these little niggles a
Right.
lot of the time as well. So whether that was to do with not allowing myself enough recovery, or just trying to push myself too hard, could have been one thing. But yeah, BFT is there. It's all thought out. And why BFTs? When I came across it, I started reading into it. I came across it on social media
Okay.
and started reading into it. It looked interesting. So it was appealing, started reading into it. And then I thought, let me check this out. I went and checked it out, and I thought, hey, let's check out this environment. What does it look like? What does it feel like? Started a few sessions, and I thought, wow, okay, this is really interesting.
Right.
Really cool. Start reading into it more. And then, the more you start looking into something, you tend to become more interested in it. And this is what happened with me. And I, reached out to BFT, and because there were franchise opportunities.
Yeah.
And I thought, for me, anything I get into, I've got to be passionate about it.
Yeah.
I've got to be passionate. I can't do it for the sake of doing it.
Yeah.
So this is one of my business, principles is you got to love what you do.
Yeah.
Because you spend a lot of your time there. And if you're not doing it, then I always question, I'll definitely question myself. If I'm not happy and passionate about it, why am I doing it?
Yeah.
So I looked into it, and, a few months later, we were exchanging emails between myself and a few representatives from headquarters, territory, starting to look at options. And here we are, months and months later, speaking to great people like yourself, great members like yourself, Esty, who are able to share their positive experience with us,
Amazing. And now you have 2 studios.
Correct. We have 2 studios.
Yeah. I go to the Glen one, but you also opened recently one in Atatu, right?
Atatu, correct. Atatu South, and that's on Atatu Road.
Yeah. Wow. I want to talk to you because it also sparks my curiosity about the business side of BFT, like the franchises, how does it work, all of that. But before we get into that side of the business, let's talk about the programs for 1 second, because obviously one thing for BFT that this is the way I see it from the consumer side is that you have to keep it interesting, right? So you have different types of programs. There's challenges that come in. There's activities, all these sort of things. Quick question: the stuff like happens on the weekend, like for example, dress up. Like, is that something that you guys come up with, or is that coming from the headquarters, or like no. There's DJs? By the way, people who listening, there's like a DJ sometimes on a Saturday, and sometimes you got like smoothies going on and stuff like that. Yeah. Is that something you come up with, or is that something that comes from the headquarters?
No, that's from individual studios. So that's the freedom we have to operate within the framework.
I see.
So the freedom within the framework, it's cool, because. You look at certain things like, okay, engagement, what's coming up? What can we do?
Right.
From time to time, you want to freshen it up. Of course, when it comes to the program, we don't mess around with that, right?
Right, I was going to ask you about it. So the program is the program, like you don't touch it. Because I was asking you about beast mode. For those listening, beast mode is my favorite workout. Okay. But it's only like in a period of time. Is that correct? Like during the challenge or something, that's when that is on?
Well, with the program that's put together, so 8 to 10 week blocks, progression based.
Right.
You'll find it's not only during challenges. It so happened this time around where we had it in our last 8 week challenge.
Right.
I think we had 3 to 4 progressions of beast mode. But in this block, we won't be seeing beast mode And again, there'd be a reason behind that.
Yeah.
But what's come into it, it's a strength block. And not to say that beast mode is not great for strength, but I guess the programmers saw a need to bring back some of the other sessions like XTX, which is your metabolic conditioning.
Right, yeah.
So beast mode made way in this 8 to 10 week block for that. And this is our strength block. It's a 9-week block, I believe. That'll lead us into our next challenge. And again, not to say that in the next challenge, beast mode will be there. It might be that all our programs are there with slightly less progression. It might be that
right.
maybe 2 or 3 drop off.
So is it fair to say that basically everything is just based off the program? So the program is the one that dictates whatever's happening. Can you give us, like, for the people who have no idea about this, because I find them interesting, the quickest summary you can just about the programs, high intensity training, right? So essentially, you can explain it better than me. So you go.
So BFT program, if I were to sum it up, look, it's strength and conditioning, with its components of cardiovascular fitness and, focus on recovery, components of strength in there as well, huge component of strength. And then you metabolic conditioning through your classes like XTX. And,
right.
The variety in the programming is also what keeps it exciting.
Right.
It's the variety of classes that come through. And it's no given that every Monday it's going to be a hybrid class, one of our hybrid classes, which builds endurance, like strength endurance, makes you stronger for longer. Pretty much what the name says, right?
Yeah. Actually, can you explain progression? Because at the beginning, I didn't know what that was. And for those people listening have no idea what progression actually means. Can you quickly explain it?
Sure.
What that progression actually means? Like, essentially, actually, let me give it a crack and see if I get it right.
Okay, I see.
It's essentially like you got a class, and then when the progression starts, you go progression 1. And the idea is that by progression, let's say 4, you have mastered a movement, right? So through a progression based exercise, you basically do one exercise at the beginning. You might do it very slowly just to build and learn the movement. Then session number 2, you might add a little bit of a, explosion to the movement or something, and then so on moving forward until at the end, you might just have more weight on the movement, but also you could potentially achieve a different movement, which you progress to be able to achieve. Is that correct?
You're on the right track, Esti.
Almost got it.
Familiarization, right? Familiarization. That's what it is.
Familiarization, that's the word.
And a great example is a Turkish get-up. Fantastic movement.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's hard.
Yes, and that's, you're on track with that. Bang on.
Right.
So when the Turkish get-up, was in our programming, there was the first 2 phases of it. It'll progress to phase 3, phase 4, we'll be doing up until we get to the full Turkish get-up. But progression-based is also, so familiarization, one thing, and it's an important component. But progression can also be, if we look at something like, let's say, a cardio hit class,
right,
where we have movements that are not as technical. So we think, okay, how will progression work here? Okay, so it's cardiovascular fitness. So cardio hit, we know, is short, sharp bursts. When we become more conditioned, we have the ability to recover quicker. When we recover quicker, our tank has been refueled and we're ready to go again, right? You'll find the more conditioned you become, the less challenging it is to hit those prescribed heart rate zones.
Yeah. So your recovery becomes smaller, right?
Recovery becomes quicker.
Yeah.
And when we're saying progression, the first progression, like for example, if we have 4 cardio hit classes programmed into an 8-week block, the first progression might be 15-second working sets with a 15-second break. The next progression might be 20 seconds of work with a 15-second break. The next progression might be 20 seconds of work with a 12-second break.
I see.
So we are progressing in that way. With strength or with any resistance training, the progression might be, yes, familiarization and advancing movements as well. So when we say progression, obviously we look at one of our movements in this current strength block, right? So our 2 main lifts for the strength block are the flat bench press and the deadlift.
Right.
Now, the progression leading up to that was prepping us for that as well. So towards the end of the last block and the earlier parts of this block, or the program incorporated maybe a little more than what it would normally do, core stability, bracing, teaching us these sorts of things.
Yeah.
Because it's so important that we're able to implement this during these great lifts.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that in itself is progression. Another form of progression is, let's say, it's body pump, right, which we know is slightly higher volume. What might happen is the program might incorporate a slightly more challenging movement targeting the same muscle group, or it might have a couple of additional reps. It could be moving to perhaps a superset within the program, so slightly less rest and more repetition as well.
Yeah.
Of course, they'll always factor in ample rest, more so during resistance exercises, but all those are forms of progression.
Right.
So that's what progression-based training is. So it could be through your cardiovascular, through your hybrid sessions, through your resistance training sessions. But generally what it's doing is, as we're making progress, we actually achieving, muscle stimulus. So if we're after growth, the hypertrophy, through pump, volume and repetition, through strength, are we being encouraged to go slightly heavier? So we've spent the first few progressions learning certain movements, becoming familiar, as you mentioned, familiarization, and preparing for it through our great programs like Hyper, Power for explosiveness as well. And now, are we happy with all the technicalities of the move? So are we encouraged to go slightly heavier? So progression might be, okay, we're dropping from 6 reps to 5 reps. But even in our app, in the Black BFT app, there's the strength metrics. And in the studio, we have the chart. So we know, okay, if we're pushing 6 reps on this weight for 5 reps, this is a prescriptive load and indicator. So if we're happy, we'll encourage, people, we're happy with their form, their technique, they're looking good and comfortable with that load. We'll encourage them to say, hey, let's try and pick up that load a little.
Right.
And that again in itself is progression.
Yeah, I've definitely progressed all the way to now no bands on that chin up.
It's great.
Which I couldn't do before.
It's
and
amazing.
Again, it's small improvements. I think that, that whole thing about 1% better every time. Every time you go there, you do a different movement that potentially, we do a lot of actually those with the dumbbells up as well.
Yes.
That build a lot of that shoulder
stability.
I think, yeah, that's right. I think that's helps a lot, with the other with the other exercises progressing through relatively quickly. Because I don't know if is it because I'm going a little bit crazy, like going a lot of sessions, but I've noticed that I've went from, again, haven't even done 100 sessions, but to be able to do quite heavy dumbbells press.
Yeah.
And that's been incredible. And I think is, again, testament to the program and the way that it's built to slowly build up all the different things that I still don't understand. A lot of these things you're talking about the muscle fibers, all of that stuff. But the results are incredible.
That's great, ST. It's
yeah.
amazing. Those are wins. And we take those little wins. For example, you said you now have ability to do a pull-up unassisted.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. And there would have been work, regardless of whether you realized it or not. There would have been work, in terms of getting people to that stage. And many people have that goal to be able to do a pull-up or a chin-up unassisted.
Yeah.
Right. But the work that goes into it, like, for example, would be, there's a bit of lats, learning how to engage your lats, learning how to squeeze your scapula together before getting into that movement. There's a bit of grip strength involved as well. And things like, I'm just going to give you an example, like the farmer's carry with the kettlebells. That improves our grip strength.
The grip strength. Yeah.
And I'm going to take myself back a few years, and I'd never have thought of that. I would have seen people in the gym doing pull-ups and said, okay, I'm just going to try this.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have known myself how to build that capability.
Yeah. That's a good
so
point.
all those sorts of things really help. So there's work that's put into it. And this is why we say it's a carefully thought out program, and continually ensuring that we progress, so building strength,
Yeah.
building fitness, building endurance, getting more conditioned, it's a great all-round program.
I can't help but to find. I actually, by the way, I've encouraged more people to join BFT, so that I'm now a lead generator at work.
Amazing.
Because the way I usually sell it is a lot of fun. Again, if you want to put something, this is something I learned from that, The Power of Habit and Atomic Habits book about building habits, is that you got to make it rewarding. Right? And like you said at the beginning, it has to be rewarding. You have something to enjoy.
Yes.
And that is, again, for me, a key element of this service, is that it's fun. Right? So I that's how I lead with, is actually a lot of fun. I love the fact that it's 15 minutes and you, like you said, I'm never looking at the clock. Not once I've looked at, what time is it? It just goes by. You know that you have a scheduled 50 minutes of your day, you go, your workout done, and it's over. That's it. And you feel great afterwards. You want to come back the next day. I just want to ask you, how can we motivate people to try this out, or just to start a journey of fitness? Because here's one thing. Through my journey, because like I mentioned before, I used to be quite overweight. And for me to lose that weight, I actually didn't do any exercises, by the way. Let me walk you through what happened to me.
Tell me.
Just like you, I started gaining a lot of weight when I was at university, just because I was too, mentally exhausted,
Busy.
Didn't pay attention to whatever I was doing, and just got more and more overweight. And like you said, until you zoom into the picture and you go, God damn, what happens? And
before you know it.
Exactly. Right? And before I knew it, I couldn't fit into, I love clothes and fashion.
Yeah.
And I clearly remember there was this one brand at that time. It was called I Love Ugly. It was just coming out. And then they had this amazing hoodie I wanted to wear. And I went there and I tried on, and it just wouldn't fit. Like, even if I tried the biggest side,
the fitted look,
it just didn't fit, and I just felt so devastated. I was like, "Oh,
it's a
no.
good enough reason, eh? It's a good enough reason."
Like, oh no, I can't wear this thing. And at the beginning, I felt like I just kept giving myself excuses. I was just like, I try to eat well. I do play football. Like, maybe I'm just, conditioned to be fat, like conditioned to be overweight. Like I don't know, I just get fat really easily and I can't lose this weight. I just keep telling myself all this stupid shit in my head.
Yeah.
And then one day I just said, you know what? I'm just being a bitch. Literally, that's what I said to myself.
Yeah.
And, I'm being honest. So I said one day, literally it was like a flip of a switch. I was like, you know what? I'm being a bitch. Let's flip that switch, change my diet. And within 3 months, I lost 19 kilos.
Wow.
To the point where people are like, are you sick? Like, what happened? And people didn't, used to look at me like how I supposed to look, because I used to be quite big. And then, of course, one of the biggest things for me was that then when I jumped into the football field, I now could run without 20 kilos on.
Yeah.
And that's when everything started for me. It was like, wow, I not only can wear this hoodie, I feel better. I look better. Like, I feel better with myself, because at the end of the day, for me, it was not about what other people thought. It was about what I thought, how I felt. And I felt better. I could run faster. Mentally, it has a giant impact.
Oh, yeah.
And then I remember doing that, and I motivated then my wife to do the same, right? And then she lost a lot of weight.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you want to motivate people and tell them about it. But a lot of people get really demotivated, especially when it comes to nutrition. If you tell them, hey, look, you had to stop eating all these refined carbohydrates. You got to really watch this out. And on top of that, you tell them, and you have to fit in 50 minutes of going to the gym. It's very hard for people to build these types of habits.
Yeah.
What do you recommend? Because again, I mentioned this before, mentioned it now. This program, this service helps you with a lot of this, the friction to get into a fitness routine or to
Yeah.
build it into your life. I think this program breaks it down in half. But one thing I know is that, of course, not everybody has, for example, the money to be able to afford something like this.
Yeah.
So what would you recommend someone who wants to start?
Look, you're right. And we're faced in life, with everything that we do, we're faced with hurdles.
Yeah.
I think having the mindset to how do we overcome this,
Yeah.
is a good starting point. So one of those hurdles is like, okay, I know I'm unwell. I know I need to be more active, right? So that's the hurdle in front of me.
Yeah.
How am I going to do this? BFT, look, there could well be a perception out there, or there may be no perception at all. And people, I guess, you can't say they can be faulted for forming perceptions. It's based on experiences that they've been through.
Right.
But in terms of getting people into BFT, what we want to do and what we are trying to do and what we always aim to do better is showcase what we can do,
Right.
So we look at results, we look at people who have come through our doors and, their transformations over a period of time. What we also want to do is, sort of that holistic approach about it all, health and well-being, health and well-being, health and fitness, lifestyle choice is, getting people to understand that it's not, oh, my alarm's gone off, I need to get to the gym. It's like, hey, I can't wait to get to the gym.
Yeah.
Because they understand the benefits of it. But if we take it step by step, backwards, step by step at a time. So the benefits of it. So, okay, we're training at the gym, but we take it step by step by step and we're stepping back. It all comes back to that why. We want people to understand their why, what motivates them, not being told that you have to train, And you'll find if you look at it in that way, Steve, yes, look, I mean, there are gyms out there, where people will turn up, and I trained at gyms for many years, different gyms.
Yeah.
But I had no idea what I was doing. Now here we have, highly accredited trainers, a team of trainers, an environment that's known to be motivating, a world-class program, game-changing technology, and, throughout or as we progress, progression-based training, but as we progress, through these blocks and that, so the variety through the sessions is one thing, but it's also, you look at, hey, the challenges that come up throughout the year. Now, these are not mandatory challenges, but it's an opportunity for a person to learn more.
Right.
And I'm going to give you one example of a challenge. One of the requirements of the challenge, if a person wants to be eligible for the incentive that's there. Now, the incentives are, I'd say, really attractive.
Yeah.
But one of the requirements is to achieve a certain amount of PXI. That's our scoring.
Yeah.
Every week. And if you look at that, it's on average, maybe 3 or just over 3 classes per week. That is encouraging consistency in training, because for me, consistency at BFT, I'd say, 3 to 4 sessions a week is ample. If I'm feeling more conditioned and my body can handle it, I'm looking at 4 to 5 sessions. And, if I have a week of total recovery, for me, a week of total recovery would be, maybe just walks, a couple of sessions at the pools where there's a spa and sauna,
Yeah.
And come back feeling great. For the next few weeks, I might be able to do 5 to 6 sessions a week, and this is what it's all about. We want to provide that understanding to people. But in terms of how do we get people, look, what we do is we have to find that balance between being overly technical with some of the information, because it can come across as quite daunting. And what happens is if we're reading into stuff and it becomes complicated and technical, it could be, just in through one ear and out the other.
Right. Yeah.
So it's got to be considered and pushed out at the right time, I believe. But getting people through our doors, experience it, and then gaining an understanding. So pretty much like the journey you've been on.
Pretty much the journey. Yeah, I mean, I doubt that somebody will go out there and experience it. And by the way, for people listening who don't know this, there is a great introductory fee, like the $30. I mean, it changes all the time, but the one I did was $30 for 3 weeks or 2 weeks or something like that.
Correct. It's a
That
trial
was,
offer.
and yeah, that was and that was perfect. I mean, who eat $10 a week? That's cheap, right? And like you said, I think that's a great approach because results. If you go there for 3 weeks, you pay $30. You'll be able to experience what it's like and the results that it generates, right? One thing that, are you all right?
Good, Esther. Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
One thing as well that has changed the way I looked at things like what's going to happen if I decide to have kids to my fitness journey. For the most part, people say, "Well, it's over." But
another hurdle.
but it's not. And again, BFT shows you that there are. And by the way, if any of the members are listening to this, incredible to see parents just making it work.
Yeah.
Bringing their kids in, they sit there. Is actually very inspiring to see. I love that part as well. The fact that they make it work. There's couples there when you know that they have like 1-2 kids.
Yeah.
But they make it a priority to fit it into their lives. And I think that's quite outstanding as well.
Yeah. Solution-based thinking, again, we look at kids and we say, that's a hurdle in front of us. And it's so easy to find that reason to not go.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
But solution-based thinking, okay, we've got the kids. However, this is a schedule that BFT offers. We have a weekly schedule. How can I make it work to suit, my situation outside the gym?
Yeah.
And as you say, we have parents who, they turn up either early or late or, most welcome. We have the area downstairs. So friendly environment. Obviously, we understand that kids can't be on the gym floor for safety reasons.
Yeah.
But it's about finding those solutions, and finding a way to make it work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you'll find as you learn and we get into that mindset of, okay, this is lifestyle change. This is the why behind why I'm training. These are my goals. This is what I'm working towards. You find that hurdle that's in front of us appears a little lower and it's easier for us to get over that hurdle because we have more of an understanding. And this is what it is. And bang on to your point, a trial offers a trial for people to get a true experience of BFT. Experience the environment, come in, see what it's like. And there's so much more that we can do. We can run open days, bring a mate and all that sort of thing.
That's
which,
right.
We've spoken about and we'd love to do as well. It's just a matter of timing it right as well. Do it on a Saturday, high engagement day. But then again, there's a few logistics, it's for it to work out.
Yeah.
We do have our big open day, obviously, around September. It's called BFT Unlocked. Where we call it Unlocked. We're unlocking our studio doors pretty much.
Yeah, for everybody to try it out.
Free passes to people.
Yeah.
Look, that's one class. But I'd say, I'd encourage people. And sometimes, look, you can't blame people for being a little skeptical in their thought process.
Yeah.
And saying, I wonder if this is the right thing for me. Hence why we always encourage, pick up a trial. You can check it out.
Yeah. No, 100%. Because I've been telling people about it. And one of the biggest things that comes, and like you said, you can't really blame them for it, is the cost, for example. Like, I pay, I don't know, $6 at the City Fitness. I'm like, whoa, but it's not the same, and the best way, there's nothing better. I could sit down here and tell you why it's not the same, but the best way is to just go and try it. And then you will see how it's not the same. Yeah. But I'm just thinking about all the different things that for me personally have worked so well. You mentioned the booking system, which again, another brilliant execution in terms of the product team, the BFT team, about, for me personally, if something's in my calendar, it's non-negotiable.
It's there.
It's there. I have to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the way that it connects, the whole thing, it just goes, you go into your booking system, you go, okay, book 6:00. It goes automatically onto your calendar.
Correct.
And that's it, it's there. You basically book your entire week.
Yeah.
And you know that is there. That's yet another thing that's just absolutely incredible. Like
technology.
the whole technology, the experience, like I said, everything
Convenience.
works. Convenience, the classes. And another thing I wanted to tell you as well, I don't know if this is with all the gyms, all the BFT gyms, because obviously they are different, right? They operate different owners. One thing that blew my mind as well is that, I tell people, well, you kind of have a personalized coach while you're doing the session. It's something you have to pay an extra, what, $70 or $60 in another.
$80, $90, $100 in some cases.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
PT
And
session.
in addition to that, and I don't know if all the owners do it, but you do it, and I want to give you kudos for that, is the fact that you are messaging. I'm pretty sure if you message me, you message all the members about how they're tracking, about whether or not they're hitting their goals. You give them advice.
Thanks,
you give
Esme.
them advice. And this is, I look at it from the customer experience point of view, it's absolutely amazing customer experience.
you.
Because I get a text from you that I know you took the time to write, and you explained to me you should recover from this, you should do this exercise, you should do this movement. If I tell you, hey, look, I injured my ankle. I actually injured going too hard with the different sessions. I injured my calf, and I said to you, look, I injured. I won't be able to go this whole week. And the fact that you reply, you give me advice, you tell me, take your time, don't come back yet, go to physio, all these sort of things, is very personalized. And the way I feel is that is worth the money that you pay, because at the end of the day, you are getting a full package. You're getting, this thing costs what, $100? And you can actually, by the way, you can use this if you go for a run, you can actually use it as well. And then you get the full experience of a personal trainer. You can ask questions. They track your progress. So, when I was there, for example, Kim knew that my heart rate is very low all the time. It's really hard for me to get into those zones. So she would sit down right next to me and go, okay, you have to push until you hit this goal. Right. And then she would actually be there the whole time, because they would actually know you and they know how to push you hard enough. And then another person might not be as fit as you, so they have the different treatment. So I feel like it's definitely a game changer. If you're looking to start your fitness journey at any level, I think that's another testament of the community aspect of it. For example, one thing my wife mentioned to me is the fact that she did not feel intimidated. You mentioned that initially as well, is the fact that when you walk into the place, sometimes it could be intimidating when you see a bunch of jacked people there that you go, oh my God, I'm gonna be embarrassed to
what
pick
have I
up
walked into?
Yeah, you're gonna be embarrassed to pick up a 8 kilograms dumbbell, but people are in different journeys, and it's so awesome to see how everybody is progressing through their different journeys, and it's very exciting to see people of all walks of life and just pushing to be a better versions of themselves. And that's the reason why I wanted to have you here, because I think that's the message that I want to put out there in the world, to always be 1% better every day. And fitness and being on top of your health is super important, because you can't have fun.
That's right.
If you're not physically well, you can't have fun. If you're not physically well, your mind is not going to work correctly. And it's incredibly important to make it part of your life, and you're going to enjoy it. And I think your business does that. So, thank you very much. Last thing I want to ask you, because we've already been almost closing up, and I appreciate your time. You're a busy man.
I see. Thank you.
But the last part of the podcast, because we could do this actually another time, again, to dive in deeper into all the different sessions that you guys run. But to close it up, let's talk about the business side, because I'm interested on that.
Okay.
You own 2 franchises. How does that work? Like, if somebody who's listening to this and they're thinking about opening a BFT studio, how does the business side work?
So from a business point of view, look, I'll very quickly run you through the process. So when you're interested in BFT, there's exclusive marketing territories. When we say exclusive marketing territory, these are defined by boundaries. Like Glen will have its boundaries, right? So if I'm marketing within those boundaries. I'm not going into other parts of Auckland where there's other BFT studios.
Right.
And obviously it makes sense because it wouldn't make sense for me to target people from East Auckland or from the North Shore, right? We want to be convenient, right, as well. So once you pick up an exclusive marketing territory, then you are searching for premises which need to meet the criteria. Now, BFT will have their criteria in terms of, what's a functional space, what'll work, and rightly so because they have the experience and the knowledge to say this could work, this won't work, and this will work. Or if this is there's a possibility that'll work, how can we make it work? So there's a few factors that are taken into consideration. Thereafter, look, you have your standard equipment, so your standard setup in terms of your cardio equipment, your rig, your weights, and all that sort of thing. Then you've got your technology coming in. So all this, you look at it, and from a business point of view, you're starting to work out, okay, cool. This is the cost, X amount, and this is what I'm looking to do. We also understand, obviously, that, hey, some people will see it as BFT is a bit of a cost in terms of membership.
Yeah.
But for the value that's offered, as you say, and I'm glad you mentioned all those things, Esty, because there is a lot of value on offer. I myself could pick up a cheaper membership and go to a gym and go down the track of not understanding. And that's regardless of my level of experience. Even after years of training in a gym.
Yeah.
I still didn't have that mindset, the understanding of it all, the layers to support my training. We look at all these factors, obviously, and then you start working through the numbers and you look at it, hey, how feasible is this? Right. What's your break even and that sort of thing. But look, in terms of the brand, it's a funky brand. It's a great program. For anyone wanting to get into BFT, my advice would be you have to be a believer in it. You've got to be passionate about it and love it. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, but it's exciting.
Would you say most owners actually are trainers? Because you yourself, actually, we didn't mention that, but you not only own the gym, but you actually train. Like you actually train me, for example. Every class that I go, you are actually there. On the floor teaching as well.
A few of the evenings, yes, Esty, that's right, and it's not a requirement as such.
Okay, but would you say most owners will probably train?
I'll say a lot of owners.
Okay.
A lot of owners are involved, right? Their level of involvement differs.
Okay,
now, some. I'd say a fair few also train. They coach classes. And then so one end of the spectrum, you have some owners who are coaching a lot of hours,
right, on
a weekly basis. To the other end, where you have some owners who are the investor type,
right?
Yeah. They're not coaching. They're working on other components of the business.
Yeah.
But it's a business for me, and my philosophies in business is one, the passion about it. I've always got to be passionate.
Yep.
But also understanding operationally what's involved.
Yeah.
And for me, it's always been, if I have expectations of people, I myself got to be able to lead those expectations. So lead by example.
Yeah.
I must lead by example and then have expectations.
Yeah, I see.
And that just gives me a level of comfort knowing as well.
I see. And how do you, the trainers, by the way, that you have are incredible as well.
Thank you.
I don't know how. I'm not in the fitness world whatsoever, but those people might not be hard or easy to come by. Like somebody like Tane, that dude is so bold. Like he is so amazing. Like about how he does, and all the trainers in general, the level of energy they bring, is outstanding. If I am a BFT, if I am a fitness trainer and I want to work for you, what are the requirements?
So initially to train, to coach classes at BFT,
to coach,
the minimum requirement is a certificate in level 4 fitness, exercise and fitness. That's the minimum requirement. Obviously there's trainers that go on to, maybe you want to qualify a little higher than that. So they
Right.
have, a bachelor's or a higher qualification than that. But that's a requirement in order to be able to coach classes. So if you want to train for us at BFT, like I give you an example, Sistine, our coach,
Yeah.
she started off her BFT journey at another BFT studio as a member.
I see.
She loved the program. She's a previous challenge winner at that studio as well.
Oh, wow.
She's won an 8-week challenge, and
Wow.
she obviously, she got connected to the program. She understood it, and you guys are well on track, I'd say, in terms of, I'm liking what I'm hearing, ST. So it's training, understanding it, not a tick the box exercise, understanding the benefits of it, the program prescription, the components that go with it as well. You felt the environment, which is great. And look, everybody will sense a different environment depending on how they perceive things. Some people may think, ooh, I am very intimidated, and they may be a little more afraid to open up. It may take them a little longer, but, back to your original question, people become, so connected to the program, they fall in love with it. They want to become a trainer, and they want to get involved with BFT.
Wow.
And pass on something as well, so they become motivated to a point where, what can I give back to this community?
I see. And you mentioned the challenge several times, but I noticed that we actually didn't actually explain what the challenge is. I'm just quickly run through exactly what that is. So essentially, you guys run a challenge every now and then. You sign up, and then you set up a goal, whatever your goal is, like gaining muscle, losing weight, or whatever. And there's actually prices. There's like local prices. There's global prices, hitting the $1,000 mark. And then again, there's all requirements that you have to hit the amount of PXI every week. Yeah. They give you a nutritional plan through the app, so they tell you exactly how much you have to eat. Actually, by the way, another thing you said to me is like, what are you eating? How many calories are you taking? Stuff that, again, I never thought of. When I did my diet, all I really did is I said, okay, well, I'm going to stop eating refined carbohydrates, high fat, and that worked. I didn't really pay too much attention to it. When I started training, of course, then I started noticing feeling a little bit weaker because I was pushing a lot harder.
Right.
And then that's another part as well that you guys always, talk about, okay, how many calories are you eating? Based on your weight, based on, where you're male or female or whatever, you have to be eating about this amount of protein. You keep the members sort of
supporting your training.
Supporting the
absolutely.
Nutrition part as well.
And yes, so challenge, Esteban, we do 3 challenges here. It's aligned with global, obviously. So BFTs around the world. We do the start of year, the mid-year, and the end of year challenge.
Yeah.
Challenge runs for a period of 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And during this 8-week period, like leading up to it, obviously there's the build up to it. We run a challenge info night where, it's generally you'll find at the challenge info nights, newcomers, people who are joining or who are just joining BFT. They've seen the advertisements about the challenge. They want to make a change, right? We recognize the importance of this night, the challenge info night. So what we want to be is as informative, as detailed, and to keep it interesting as well. Challenge, in summary, we have a starting point. How do we know what our starting point is? Okay, for me, if I'm at home, the only piece of equipment I have at home is a scale. I'll jump on a scale. It'll tell me, right, 80 kgs.
Yep.
Okay, 80 kgs. So what's my goal? It can only be weight related, right? So it's very, very basic. But at BFT, we have a body composition scanner, which gives you 40 different results, in the space of a minute. Now, 40 different results is 40 kind of numbers. We'll take the time to explain a few things and point you in the right direction. So we're talking things like, our body fat, so one thing is body fat. So your body composition, there's lean body mass and body fat mass. So your body fat, 2 different types of fat, your visceral and your subcutaneous. So your visceral is the one intra-abdominal, around your organs. So the body composition scanner goes into that much depth and give us an idea of all that. So now we can start thinking along the lines of more detailed goals. Of course, we want to keep it realistic. relatively simple.
Yeah.
But we want to have an understanding, okay, this is our body composition.
Yeah.
This is what we want to achieve, and let's go and do it.
Yeah.
We then say, okay, cool. So we understand what the goal is. Goal setting is important. Training with a purpose, right? We go through the weeks, and there's support provided in the form of, yes, there are nutritional plans. So if my goal is to, let's say, lose some body fat,
Yeah.
together, obviously I'll sit down with whoever's doing the body composition scan. After the scan, we'll talk through my goal, the nutritional guidelines. Now, that nutrition is going to support my goal. And not only is it just, I want you to consume X amount of calories, but there's a macronutrient breakdown.
Right.
And this is aligned with the goal, right? With that macronutrient breakdown, I might be a newcomer who's never heard of, what's carbohydrate? What's protein? You know? So we'll take the time to explain it and, say, okay, this is the amount of calories we're going to be putting on our body on a daily basis based on our goal. Here's the macronutrient breakdown. We'll then point people in the right direction in terms of, here are more tools to support this here. We're providing you with this information, but here are some more tools. Tracking calories for some people is like, oh my God, how am I going to track calories? And I was the same.
That's it right here, bro. I actually hated that. I was like, oh no.
I was the same. I was like, what is tracking calories? I'm having a coffee, I've got to track the calories. I'm having a donut, I've got to track the calories. But like anything else, when you're new to it, it can be a daunting task ahead.
Yeah, I see.
The more you look into it and the more experienced you become,
the
easier it becomes, to a point where, you get to a point where, okay, I'm not training for anything in particular. I know roughly how many calories I should be taking in. And we humans, creatures of habit, like for me, more often than not, I'm having the same thing pre-workout before my training in the morning. I know how many calories I've consumed. I know my post-workout, right? What am I having? I know how many calories. If I'm going to a party, an event, a social, and more often than not, you'll find there's pizza, it's comfort food, right? I don't, okay, cool. This is it. I'm going to be doing this here at this event. So I've already made maybe small little sacrifices along the way throughout the day.
So that
it can accommodate that. I might have 2 or 3 slices of pizza. So again, this is that balance I talk about, So having that understanding, and then when you have that understanding, it actually becomes quite fun, the way you can play around with it.
I do that all the time, actually, because when I did this diet, right, I lost a lot of weight, but I love pizza. And I couldn't have pizza. And but then once I hit my goal, like you said, I lost all this weight, and I hit my goal. Then I started going to what I call the 80-20, which is essentially from Monday to Friday, I would just eat very clean, no carbohydrates, just very disciplined. And then on a Saturday, I could easily have a nice giant pizza, no problem.
With a few chips on the side.
I don't like the chips, but just pizza. Like for me, that was heaven, And like you said, just a small sacrifice so that I could enjoy that, and it becomes part of your life. Again, dieting is another thing that for me became, if you really looked at it as a temporary thing, which is the way most people have a relationship with dieting, is different. But if you actually look at it as, well, I'm going to change the way I eat. That's it. It's going to be part of my life. This is my relationship with food nowadays.
For sure.
Rather than a temporary thing that's going to get me there and that's it. Because then that base, if you look at it like that, it might work, but then you go back.
More likely to go back.
You're more likely to go back, and then you're going to be right in the same page once again. So that part, for example, for me has worked. And I can have a pizza, Like tomorrow, great. I'm looking forward to it. I'm gonna have a pizza tomorrow.
It's the end of the week, right? You've done some hard work. You put some credits in.
Exactly.
Why not enjoy it? And that's the balance I spoke about earlier. Having that balance, because you have an understanding, and that's great to see. That you have that understanding, and that, yes, it's not all very regimented and rigid, to a point where it gets so regimented that it's easier to fall off or go off track.
Yeah, exactly.
So having an understanding that, hey, it's allowed. We're human beings, And then if we feel, okay, we want to cut back, I want to change that 80-20, I want to change it to 90-10.
Yeah, exactly.
I can do that.
Because, and sometimes if you want to hit a particular goal, then just change it to 100%, because you do want to hit that goal.
Exactly. And that could be over a 3, 4, 5 week period. Yeah. And then you feel, okay, look, I'm going away on honeymoon or a holiday. I'm going to a beautiful destination. I'm going to lose that 80-20 and I'm going to 60-40 the other way.
Yeah. For a short period of time.
Yeah, I'm going to have a few cocktails, while I'm on holiday. And then, I have a goal when I come back. And it's this thought process that you get into. Goal setting. And it's also, the amount of importance a person wants to place on their well-being. Yes, now, well-being is so important. If you look at the amount of time we spend in a week, and without wanting to take up too much time, but look after yourself. We call it sharpening the saw, physically, mentally, emotionally, that sort of thing. Because when you are well, you have the capacity to perform and do better
100%.
Everything around you.
Yes.
Right. So this is what we say to people. And it's, there's so much we can go into about health and fitness. But I think the key messages are, invest in yourself, the time into yourself, understand it, the holistic approach. And once you have an understanding and you find your purpose behind it.
Your why, find your why.
Yeah, exactly. You've taken the first few important steps.
100%. Hey, thanks so much for being here. Again, I think we could possibly do another episode if you're keen, because we can go into more of a deep dive into one of these things. I will have more questions for you. But the message, like you said, is 100%. Keep sharpening your saw. Get 1% better every day, and find your purpose. Make it work into your life, and guarantee you're gonna feel better. You're gonna look better. You're going to love yourself a lot more. You're going to fit into that hoodie.
Yeah, that's right. That's important, right? And then you'll feel better after you have the couple of slices of pizza.
You will not feel guilty about having a few slices of pizza. For those who listen to this conversation, thank you very much. And thanks for your time.
Yes, Steve.
I love it. It was awesome. And I will see you in class, Crew Fit, on Saturday.
Stay hydrated. ST, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure being here. Thanks for having me on and, listening to me. And as you say, there's some key messages in here.
Yes.
But hey, understanding it and just continuing to make progress along the way. And, looking at you and Marcella as well. Mm-hmm. You guys have made a great start, and there's nothing more pleasing to see people now on that track. Yeah.
Yes, 100%. And again, if you, for whatever reason, you go, I don't like BFT. The message is, like you said, is to motivate people to start a fitness journey, to learn, and do this bloody trial, man. Like, seriously, there's nothing to lose. $30. You go in there and you can experience it for yourself. By the way, you can go to any BFT after, like a month or something?
Yeah, 30 days. And that's the beauty of the membership as well, global access.
Global access. So, if you got to this episode somehow to be motivated, go out there, sign up. BFT Glen Eden, BFT Atatu if you're in West Auckland. Otherwise, BFT nearby. And thank you, everybody.
Definitely, my friend.
Drink water. Again, exercise, and peace.
Motivated and hydrated. Thanks, ST.
Thanks so much, man. That was really good.
Awesome, my friend. Thank you.
Welcome to the next level.